Um, but I'll just start really slowly on this title screen and just tell you my name, Jim Stukas. I'm a program architect at Salesforce France, which of course you know from my accent. That's where I work. And last night, I was discussing with people and I decided to change the title of my presentation. Some of you may have already seen it. I don't know what happened here with the original title, Coming Soon to a Salesforce Org Near You, Hyperforce. And the new title is Coming Very Soon to a Salesforce Org Near You, Hyperforce. Should I start or are we, okay. Thanks to all of you to be here. This is an update of a presentation I did last year. So some of you may be familiar with some of this, but the timeline of Hyperforce has been accelerating. That's why we call it Hyperforce. And we have not changed the name of that. We have an internal code name at Salesforce for Hyperforce that only a few people know. And if you pay me, I'll give you the name. But Hyperforce is the name we've announced in Dreamforce during COVID, which was 2020, I guess. But I've updated the presentation, and the main goal here is to give you more information. But before we get going, because we only have 20 minutes, I'm going to get started here. The most important slide in any Salesforce presentation. You've already seen this. I want you to speed read this while I'm talking, but I'll give you the TLDR, the too long didn't read, is that I am going to talk about some stuff. I'm going to speculate about some stuff about the future, and I know some stuff, but do not buy any Salesforce products that are not generally available, right? Okay. Here's the marketing slide for Salesforce, for Hyperforce. A couple of things you see in the graphics. This is like a unified platform for all of our products, and it's everywhere in the world. It's kind of all over the place. I'll get more in the detail in the slides, but that's really the vision of Hyperforce. The tagline, trusted cloud platform, loved by developers, trusted by CIOs. Trust is our #1 value at Salesforce, so that's important. Why are we doing this? We've been running software as a service since 1999. We built our own data centers, so that's getting on to 25 years now. And we know what we're doing, right? And I mean, but as you may know, some things can still be improved in Salesforce, right? So if we're here, what we decided is if we stay in our first-party data centers, we can get to this point. But that's a local maxima, and what we want to do is get way up there so we can ski down better or whatever. But I'll tell you more why we're doing it. So the point of the presentation, I want to give you the overview, what Hyperforce is, and the second part of the presentation will be some practical things about getting your org ready for Hyperforce. What's the difference between first-party data centers and Hyperforce? Well, first-party data centers means that Salesforce, we've installed from the racks, we screw machines into I don't know if anyone's built a data center here. I actually used to do that in the 20th century. We put machines in racks, storage bays, and so on, and then we install software on those machines. They may come pre-installed with some operating system, or we may be running Linux. Not going to give you away any secrets, but and so what we have to do is we run the data center, and you have to do a lot of different things around security, maintenance, data center compliance, the power grid, and then on top of that, you have software monitoring, the build and delivery of the software, networking services, and so on. And now we've done this. You see 3 big blocks here, because this is Core, or Lightning, or what's the new name? I think it's the Einstein 1 platform this month. But we also have Commerce Cloud, which was Demandware, and Marketing Cloud, which was ExactTarget, and a bunch of other companies. And they have separate data centers today, right? So we're doing all these stacks several times, right? And the goal of Hyperforce for us is to do that just once, right? But that gives you, as partners and customers, an integrated platform. So some of you may know that integrating Commerce Cloud and Service Cloud is not like finger in the nose kind of thing, but it will be in the future, we hope. So some of the other key differences, well, this is going to run, how are we going to do this, is we decided to run on public cloud, okay? So there are hyperscalers that have grown up, and there are very few customers, I think, who can run their data center as well as Salesforce can. But we said, that's not our differentiator. Our differentiator is in the software up in the stack, so let's let the hyperscalers run those data centers. In disaster recovery, this is going to be a key difference. Today, I'm just going to assume most of you have your main org in Europe. What does that mean? Or in the UK, right? What that means is you have two data centers that are in replication. One of them is your primary, and the other is what we call the ready instance. And so if there's a problem in one data center, we can switch over. But there's a time to switch, right? In Hyperforce, we're moving to a triple availability zone so that we have 3 active data centers at any one time on your org. And so if one of them goes down, the 2 others are still up. And there could be some switchover for the database, but for the application servers, they're going to continue to work. There's no time to switch. And that's for unplanned maintenance. And I'll talk about planned maintenance later on. That where the goal is, and it's actually a reality, 0 downtime for planned maintenance. Once you're on Hyperforce, there's going to be downtime to get there if you're not there yet. And then, and this is, do I need to go back to the safe harbor statement? Future possibilities, right? So today, and most of the presentation I'm going to be talking about core, but this is going to apply to all of our products. So, well, I shouldn't say all. So anyway, don't buy unless it's generally available. But we're going to do a lot of cool things once you're on Hyperforce. And some of them are already available, so we'll talk about that. Here's some other the key characteristics of Hyperforce. Data residency, you saw on the first marketing slide how we've got data centers now all over the world. In 25 years, we had something like, I don't know, less than 10 data centers on the 3 continents, America, Europe, and in APAC. And that took us a long time. And we realized to get 2 or 3 more even is going to take us a long time. With Hyperforce, we're already on, I have the number here, I think it's 16 regions already live today. And that's since 2020, so that's in 3 years. We're going to allow scalability. And let me answer already a question I know some of you are thinking is like, oh, Hyperforce, no more governor limits, right? No. Not today anyway. That may be in the future. But today, what you're doing is just moving to this hyper-scaling platform, but that doesn't mean you can just open bar and everything yet, okay? But we are able to do things already today. I can't get into too much of the detail on that, but this is one of the goals of Hyperforce. Security, we weren't bad about security in first party. Well, we still have first party data centers, but we've rebuilt security from the ground up. So once you're in the first party data center, we sort of trust that everybody who's in there, now that's a security problem, right? So on the public cloud, we cannot do that. So everything is encrypted, authenticated, mutually authenticated, all the services talking to each other. The security has been redone from the ground up. Privacy and agility, also incredibly important, things that are part of the DNA of Hyperforce. Now this slide, I showed this exact same slide last year. There might be a couple of new logos on here. I didn't really remember. But the number, if anyone remembers, was 50,000 customers last year on Hyperforce. Now up to 90,000. 50,000 was kind of a mix of customers in production and in sandboxes. Today we have 90,000 customers in production on Hyperforce. So the timeline is accelerating. And is this being recorded? I have to not speak into the microphone if I am. But in Europe, our data centers, the first-party data centers where you are today, if you're running in France and Germany or in the 2 UK data centers, are going to close very soon, like in the first half of next year, right? And we're in December tomorrow, so that's why I'm warning. That's why I changed the title of the presentation. Very soon. Get ready for Hyperforce. So let's talk about how to do that. Well, I've got a couple more slides before we get to that. It's here now. It's also important. I talked about the vision is all the products. The first products that are out there are Core and Data Cloud. Core is already available in 16 regions. Israel is planned for next year, but that's definitely safe harbor at this point. That could change. But this is one other thing. We could add in a region. It's much easier. Now that we've done this, and I think I have a slide that talks about infrastructure as code, once we decide to go to a region, as long as our partner supports that region. We just run scripts, and the thing is up. It's more a matter of support and so on. Data Cloud today is available in US, India, and Germany, and it's going to be available in every Hyperforce region next year. And I believe that there's some already online, but I couldn't get the confirmation before today's talk. So, Marketing Cloud is something in the future. I don't want to talk too much about it, but this is the vision. We've got to get all our clouds on this so that we can integrate them better than they are today. And we're building new generations of Marketing Cloud and Commerce Cloud that will run on here. Obviously, MuleSoft as well. Let's talk about EU operating zone. We're in Europe. I don't know about you, but I don't trust the American government. But so, you know, if you want, right now, your data is stored, encrypted, at rest in Europe if your instance is in Europe, right? If your instance starts with EU something, you're in Europe. That means you're in France and Germany, actually. And they're replicating and so on. And that's stored there. But when you ask for support, the support is in the US or in India, so on, so that your data is actually leaving European Union. The EU operating zone is a paid offering on top of Hyperforce. You have to be on Hyperforce, and only EU-based personnel will touch your data, right? So there's a lot, and there's other guarantees. It needs a presentation in itself. We've got a whole deck on that, but I just want to say this is one of the first things that's made possible by Hyperforce. Quick clone sandboxes is another thing. I was talking to somebody last night about this. This is great. Instead of waiting days for your sandbox, you can clone a sandbox in minutes on Hyperforce. This is all based on technology that's been developed from the bottom up for Hyperforce. And if you want an instance for yourself, apparently you can pay for it. I have no idea how much that costs. That's probably a lot of money. And then other things that are coming are disaster recovery. Right now I told you about high availability. But some people want to say, okay, if my EU instance completely goes down for some reason, can I switch over to somewhere, you know, another continent? That's going to be something that we're going to offer, as well as external key management. Shield, for those of you who know Shield, it's available on Hyperforce. It's necessary on Hyperforce in certain industries. And then there's the external key management is another offering that extends Shield. And the tenant level encryption is another thing coming soon. Okay, I'm not going to spend time on this slide because it's just basically, this one is to say, it's kind of a repetition. As a user, as an admin, as a developer, when you're on Hyperforce, you shouldn't see any difference. That's the goal, and it's been proven 90,000 times now, right? So, you know, we didn't take anything away moving to Hyperforce. You should see everything you see in first party. It just gets better. All right, so now, hopefully I've talked you all into, you got to get there as soon as possible. How do you do that? Well, prepare your org. Now this is, for some of you who've been using Salesforce for a while, you know your org can be migrated even when in first party. You know, there's a reason we refresh the hardware. There are lots of different reasons that people have moved for a long time. And it's the same sort of checklist with a couple of additional items for Hyperforce. All right? And there are links in this presentation. You can see them down here at the bottom right. sfdc.co, prepare for org migration, and fsdc.co, Hyperforce known issues. I won't say there's no bugs. Has anyone seen software with no bugs? Does that exist? But so those are 2 links to know, and there'll be some other ones in the slides after. But you can prepare your org. There's already in every org in the setup Hyperforce Assistant. You go in there, and it has like the 5 main things that you need to check. Like, be sure you don't have any hard-coded references in your code, right? That's something that shouldn't have been done for decades, but people might still have that. So Hyperforce's first thing it does is allow you to check that. And then it goes through 4 or 5 other things. And then we also have a more precise checklist, and I'll talk about the next slide. Once you've done that and you're ready, know what to expect, migration day. I'll have a slide about that in detail. And then, this is my favorite part of Hyperforce, enjoy. Has anyone in here had the opportunity yet to enjoy Hyperforce? Oh, isn't it happiness? Pure bonheur, as we say in French. Okay, So the checklist, the Hyperforce system is very high level, and so please do it as soon as possible. But then you have sfdc.co migration-prepare. And that's a checklist that goes more in detail. They're very, some obscure kind of settings you might want to check, and it depends how complex your implementation is. You may have some extra things in there. And one of the key things that's different in Hyperforce, for a long time we've been making the recommendation not to allow list hard-coded IPs, right? Which is funny because when you put IP restrictions on profiles, you can only type in hard-coded IP, but let's not get into that. So, but when you move to Hyperforce, the difference is in first party, we own our IPs and we publish them, and when we update them, which happens every once in a while, we update that page, and so you can do it. But we still say, please don't do that anymore. Allow list domains, and the domains that need to be allow listed are listed. But for Hyperforce, that's nearly obligatory. Now, if you really, really want to live life dangerously and painfully, you can continue to try to keep up with hyperscalers who could change IP addresses every day, right? So maybe I exaggerate a little bit, but they can change very quickly and out of the control of Salesforce. And so we have a process to allow you to try to do that, but you have to get 100 monkeys typing all your IP addresses all the time. No, you can script it a little bit, all right. Anyway, please go to this very long URL to check. That's a help document on that. Okay, so this is, I got rid of a lot of the slides. When you go to the Hyperforce assistant, you have these four kind of big things: discover, prepare. So let's pretend we already did. Discovering is what we're doing here today, I'm explaining. And then preparing is the stuff I just talked about. And now, what happens when you actually upgrade? And then we won't talk about management today. We'll come maybe next year. I think next year I'm gonna do something about AI though, but okay. So when you upgrade, it's like any migration, if anyone has ever gone through this, 3-hour maintenance window. So actually what happens, and especially if you have a big org, you have up to 28 days where we're replicating your data in the background. You don't see that happening. And you're doing all your pre-migration checks, make sure you don't have any hard-coded references and all those other good things. And then, whenever the maintenance window is, it's like 1 or 2 in the morning, depends on your time zone, we will turn your instance into read-only. And then we will finish copying, do the delta of what's left. That actually does not take very long. But then we run checks so that we make sure that there's an actual exact copy of the data between the two instances. There hasn't been a corrupted disk that happened in the middle and so on. And we do the checks so that if there were, we can roll back and give you back your first party org. But if everything's good, enjoy, right? Well, no, there is a post-migration checklist to go through. Just make sure, can I still log in? Does my SSO still work? Does all this other good stuff still work? Is my account page still what I thought it was supposed to be? But it should be exactly. No one should be able to tell the difference, without really going deep down. The only thing will be is when you go into company information, the settings, instead of EU29, that's my customer's instance, so I'll talk about that one, whatever, it will say FRA something if it's in France. It has three letters, the instance names in Hyperforce. It's like, wow, that should not do anything to your implementation. There we go. Okay, no, one more slide. How will we tell you about this? And this, I won't talk to this slide so much. So I'm saying what you should try to do is ask right away to move a sandbox and make sure you know how to do this, so that you're like, oh, okay, I'll go to sleep when it's production. But when the production will be scheduled, and we are scheduling what we call mass org migrations every weekend now. And that's how we're rolled up to 90,000 orgs moved. You'll get a notice, you should get a notice 90 days before saying you're in the pipeline. 30 days before, you'll get the date saying, okay, here's your date. If you're a signature customer, you get the date 90 days in advance. You get a reminder 15 days before, and then the day of, well, I'd say put a calendar reminder on your phone or something. Don't wait for Salesforce to tell you. But anyway, so that's kind of the steps we'll go through to whether you know you're in the automatic way. And you could get, you get this 30-day thing, if you don't want to move for some crazy reason, and there are some reasons, but most of them I don't think are valid, but there could be a good reason, you can kind of opt out. However, in Europe, I mentioned this beginning, all of our data centers in Europe, the present ones, are closing middle of next year. So there's an alternative thing, but I really recommend that people move to Hyperforce. So you can do that. Otherwise, you could just wait, and Salesforce will migrate your instance whenever we've decided it happens. But you can take the initiative if you want and start migrating. You have to work with your CSM to do that. Okay, I think that's it. Does anyone have any questions? Excellent question. He asked, what about Pardot? So Pardot is sort of Marketing Cloud, but it's much more integrated into Core. And I admit that I don't know. I haven't had the pleasure of working with Pardot at a customer. I used to work with Pardot in the 20th century, but since it's Salesforce. So I don't know. That's a good question, though. So maybe you can send me a ping, and I can remember to look it up. But we have, information of what products are actually available, and that's kind of obscure. And I can tell you, some things are usually like if it was, Marketing Cloud, B2C, that is not moving today. It's really Core that's got to go. But Pardot, I think, is running in the same instance as your Core Org. Not necessarily. No, it's sort of a part, but it's, yeah. Okay, it's a good question. Please. There are known issues. I gave you the link. You can look them up. I didn't see anything that was like, oh my God, people better stop. They're kind of, there have been some issues, and they're either been fixed or are in the midst of being fixed. So nothing showstopper. Otherwise, we wouldn't have taken the decision I think we did. Please.
Suppose that you have whitelisted some IP addresses for Salesforce legacy actual data centers. You have to change them with new IPs from
Well, the recommendation even before was to stop whitelisting the IPs, but yes, they would be different when they move. So one of the links, I can go back to it, but it is what we recommend to do. And then you have to keep following links to find out, well, what if I really want to type all the IPs, the ranges, whatever. There's a way to get them, but they change all the time, so you have to automate that all the time. Whereas ours changed from time to time. It was like a slowly moving dimension for those of you who worked in data warehousing. Now that's like a fast moving dimension. So please don't do it. Allow list domains. But I can understand at big companies that if it's not being done today, that could take longer than March of 2024, which is the official deadline for moving if you're in a European data center.
About the data residency, will it be possible, for example, to have some data stored based on some rules? For example, US data stored in US, Europe.
Okay, let me repeat the question, and I'll give you the answer is no. So the question is, data residency. Yes, you now have 17 options of where to move Hyperforce, right? So if you have one org today, you need to move it to one region. Now, you could say, oh, I want to be in 2 regions, and you can do that, but that's a multi-org strategy. There's nothing that changes in terms of if I have 5 orgs and I want to keep them in sync, does Salesforce do that for me magically? No. It can be done. So, and if you want to split an org into 2, so I need data in China and another in Singapore and another in France, you can do that, but there's no, the data, Salesforce doesn't magically run different processes based on who the user is or where the customer is. You have to put your org strategy into place for that. Hyperforce does not change anything at that level. It only allows you, and just to say, for me, data residency, I understand that there are reasons, especially latency or whatever, you want to be as close as possible to your users. But if you have a worldwide sort of user base and you want to run a worldwide Salesforce org, let's say, you can't have a data center under everyone's desk, right? That's just, to me, it's like the opposite of what we want to do. But we do allow the choice But once you made that choice, you're in that region. Does that answer your question? Okay. Please.
I heard that performance is noticeably better.
Ve-
Also, government limits are still the same, but can we expect a little performance bump?
You can expect a performance bump. I've had the same feedback. I haven't yet had the enjoy part. You know, I've been following the subject for a while. My customer is now finally moving, getting their thing. So, but I've had colleagues tell me, yes, the performance is much better. Governor limits today don't change, but the door will be open for, I mean, they do change with time. I mean, there's some governor limits have disappeared and so on, and with Hyperforce, maybe many more will, but it's not like it's going to be open bar. Unless you buy the very expensive, I want my one instance for myself, which we used to have one customer in the world, I don't know if I should tell about this, but who had one first-party instance with 6 database nodes for themselves because they were just really big and they needed it for Diwali. And now they are on Hyperforce, and the performance, we did 135% of the transactions this year with much better performance. So there's a lot of scalability. That's what Hyperforce is going to give us, that ability. But the first thing is to move, I think it was very amazing what engineering at Salesforce did. We've rebuilt the platform. Everything else is the same, but it opens lots of possibilities. But that's the safe harbor. I can't say, oh yeah, this or that governor limit is gonna disappear, but it's possible. Please.
Do you confirm the Salesforce certificates will remain the same with Hyperforce?
I suggest, yeah, the certificates. There is a couple of lines in there's an Excel spreadsheet. One of the, you can go back a little bit, if it will. This one, if you go to this link, this will bring you to a knowledge-based document. Is it time? Okay, and from there, be sure to go all the way to the bottom, and there's an Excel spreadsheet with all the detailed things. And there are some points about certificates that need to be checked. So, but there are a lot of people who migrate and the certificates work. It's just in certain circumstances, especially I think PIN certificates on the mobile app. It's just from memory now. I haven't memorized the spreadsheet, but that is the official documentation of everything should be checked. It's there. Okay, one more question maybe? No.
You can come and discuss with this.
Yeah, I'll be here all day. Well, I have tickets for the theater tonight, so I won't be very late, but please feel free to find me outside. Thank you very much.